next part in our series on classical Chinese civilization and culture and philosophy. And today we'll be reading selections from the very famous Sunzi, The Art of War. Okay, and I won't provide any commentary here. I'm just going to read the passage that's included in Sources of Chinese Tradition. And I'll put the link to that book below, Volume 1. And you can purchase it and read along with me, follow along with me. During the Eastern Zhou period, the Zhou Dynasty, the Eastern Zhou is the period from 770 to 221 BC, followed by the short-lived Qing Dynasty, when China was united. The 7 warring states were all united under the single Qing Dynasty. So during the Eastern Zhou period, the Zhou kings exercised little real power. The feudal lords of the various constituent parts of the Zhou set themselves up as the kings of independent states and fought innumerable battles against each other in a constantly shifting pattern of alliances and enmities. It was in this context that men like Confucius, Mencius, Lord Shang, Han Fei, and others offered their advice and services to the various feudal lords as civilian officials and political advisors. At the same time, other men offered their expertise in the arts of war. The most famous of the military strategists of the Eastern Zhou period is Sunzi, the putative author of a collection of teachings entitled Sunzi's Art of War. As in the case of Lao Tzu, there is no firm evidence that Sunzi existed. He is supposed to have been a contemporary of Confucius, but the book bearing his name was compiled 100 years later, sometime in the second half of the 4th century BCE. Whatever the identity of the author or authors, the art of war has had tremendous influence in China over the ages. It has also been read in military schools and corporate boardrooms around the world by men and women hoping to gain an advantage in the dog-eat-dog worlds of war and business. Okay, the Japanese Imperial Army, for example, the generals and other leading military figures during the war against the United States and China, for example, employed ideas and methods that are put forth in the art of war. All right, documents, okay, selections from the Sunzi, or Art of War. I'll read the longer version, but I'll start with the study questions. There are 3 questions here. Compare Sunzi's thinking on war with the understanding of the Tao articulated in the Tao Te Ching. Are there similarities between the two? Okay, so he kind of describes war as if it were the Tao. So what is his Tao of war, and how does it relate to the Tao that's expounded and articulated in the Tao Te Ching, the classic of the way and its power, the classic of the Tao and the De, the virtue. Are there similarities between the two? Question number 2. What would a Confucian scholar think of the ideas expressed here? Is Confucius's understanding of the Tao, the way, the same as that of Sunzi? Okay, so keep in mind, Sunzi is not a Ru. He's not a Confucian scholar, so he might have he does have a very different idea of what the Tao is than the standard Confucian view. So compare those 2 views. Question 3. What does Sunzi mean when he says that the victorious military is first victorious and after that does battle? Okay, that's a very famous passage from this excerpt that we're about to read. What does he mean by that? The victorious military is first victorious and after that does battle. So you win before you even fight, and then you fight. What does he mean by that? Selections from the Sunzi, Art of War. Fundamental definitions. The military is a great matter of the state. It is the ground of life and death, the way, the Tao, of survival or extinction. One cannot but investigate it. Thus base it in the 5. Underline the 5, he's going to get to that. Compare by means of the appraisals, and so seek out its nature. And here are the 5. The first of the 5 is the Tao. The second is the way, the heaven, Tian. The third is the Di, the earth. The fourth is the general, as in the general of the army. And the 5th is method. Okay, and so we have Tian, Di, Dao is the first, Dao. Tian is the second, Di is the third. 4th is general, Shou, Shogun no Sho, in Chinese, I forget the reading, maybe Xiao or something like that. And the fifth is the Fang, or the method, the whole no whole. The way is, the Tao is what orders the people to have the same purpose as their superior. Thus they can die with him, live with him, and not harbor deceit. Heaven, Tian, is yin and yang, cold and hot, the order of the seasons, going with it, going against it. This is military victory. Earth, Di, is high and low, broad and narrow, far and near, steep and level, death and life. The general, as in the general of the military, of the army, is wisdom, trustworthiness, courage, and strictness. Method, or Fang, is ordering divisions, the way of ranking, and principal supply. So these are the five elements that anybody who's planning to embark upon a war in battle must consider and come up with a strategy that incorporates all of these 5 elements. Next section, deception and reversal. The military is a way, a Tao, of deception. Thus, when able, manifest inability. When active, manifest inactivity. So here we see the Taoist idea of Wu Wei here. When active, when you are healthy and strong and active, manifest inactivity. When you are healthy and strong and active and able, manifest inability. When near, manifest as far. So I think this manifest means appear as, right? So pretend to be. We might translate it as well. When far, pretend to be near. Manifest as near. When he seeks advantage, the enemy seeks advantage, lure him. When the enemy is in chaos, take him. When he is substantial, prepare against him. When he is strong, avoid him. So don't fight your enemy when he's at his peak, when he's strong. Avoid him at that time. Those times. Attack when he is unprepared, where he's unprepared. Emerge where he does not expect. Okay, this is kind of... all right, these are the victories of the military lineage. They cannot be transmitted in advance. So be as a ninja when you are fighting and when you're planning battle and when you're engaging your opponent. Next section, on victory. In general, the method of employing the military is the following. Taking a state whole is superior. Destroying it is inferior to this. So take the state after you've defeated it, take it whole. Do not destroy it. Taking a division whole is superior. Destroying it is inferior to this. Same with a division, same with a battalion. Taking a battalion whole is superior. Destroying it is inferior to this. Same with a company. Taking a company in battle, whole is superior. Destroying it is inferior to this. Same with a squad. Taking a squad, whole is superior. Destroying it is inferior to this. Therefore, 100 victories in 100 battles is not skillful. Subduing the other's military without battle is skillful. So the greatest of warriors, greatest of generals, of strategists, avoids war altogether, wins by avoiding war altogether, wins by non-action, by Wu Wei. Thus the superior military cuts down strategy. Its inferior cuts down alliances. Its inferior cuts down the military. The worst attacks cities. Underline this line because this is something that modern generals and armies and air forces have forgotten about. Second World War, for example, was filled with massive attacks on civilians, on cities, large cities with big civilian casualties. Knowing victory has 5 aspects. Knowing when one can and cannot do battle is victory. Okay, knowing victory has 5 aspects. Knowing when one can and cannot do battle is victory. Discerning the use of the many and the few is victory. Superior and inferior desiring is the same, and desiring the same is victory. Superior and inferior desiring the same is victory. So the superior and inferior within the army must be aligned in their desire, and that is victory. Using preparation to await the unprepared is victory. The general being capable and the ruler not interfering is victory. So the ruler the king or the emperor must not interfere in the details of the general's plan and implementation. These 5 are a way, a Tao, of knowing victory. Thus it is said, knowing the other and knowing oneself. In 100 battles, no danger. Not knowing the other and knowing oneself. 1 victory for 1 defeat. Not knowing the other and not knowing oneself, in every battle certain danger. And that's a quotation, I think it might be from the Odes, we'll have to check on that later. In the past, the skillful first made themselves invincible to await the enemy's vincibility. Invincibility lies in oneself. Vincibility lies in the enemy. Thus the skilled can make themselves invincible. They cannot cause the enemy's vincibility. Thus it is said, victory can be known but cannot be made. Invincibility is defense. Vincibility is attack. Okay, so you want to be invincible. Therefore, you want to employ a strategy of defense rather than offense and attack. Vincibility is attack. Defend and one has a surplus. So defend rather than go on the offense. Defend and you have a surplus. Attack and you start to lack things. Attack and one is insufficient. One skilled at defense hides below the 9 earths and moves about the 9 heavens. So if you're skilled at defense, you behave like a ninja and avoid the enemy altogether, and he can't get to you. Thus one can preserve oneself and be all victorious. So you preserve yourself through defense, and you become victorious by doing so. In seeing victory, not going beyond what everyone knows is not skilled. Victory in battle that all under heaven calls skilled is not skilled. Thus lifting the down of an autumn leaf does not make great strength. Seeing the sun and the moon does not make a clear eye. Hearing thunder does not make a keen ear. What is meant by skilled is to be victorious over the easily defeated. Thus the battles of the skilled are without extraordinary victory, without reputation for wisdom, and without merit for courage. Thus one's victories are without error. Being without error, what one arranges is necessarily victorious, since one is victorious over the already defeated. One skilled at battle takes a stand in the ground of no defeat, and so does not lose the enemy's defeat. Therefore, the victorious military is first victorious. Here's the famous passage that's mentioned in the study guide. Underline it. We'll discuss it more, and we'll discuss this paragraph more in detail. It's very dense. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. Therefore, the victorious military is first victorious, and after that does battle. The defeated military first does battle, and after that seeks victory. All right. That's all for now. We'll discuss more about this essay, these passages from the Sunzi, The Art of War, later in class. Goodbye.